I'm asking for, and the people of Kentucky are asking for, is transparency and honesty, that Senator McConnell still has the capacity to serve, and I hope he does. I wish him well. I hope his health is improving. But if he can have a 17 minutes conversation with his protege, he can call into any of your news stations for 3. All we're asking is just a little bit of proof. And I get that everybody wants a certain level of privacy, but when you run for these jobs, you know you're giving some of that up. We have seen rampant speculation across social media and elsewhere. It could all be fully avoided, and it's all within Senator McConnell's power. But because he won't do that, the fact is that we don't know. And that means that the Senate, if he won't provide more evidence, needs to step in and demand it. All I'm trying to do is ask the bare minimum. And it raises the concern that he might not be able to meet the bare minimum. And if that's true, then yes, Kentucky would need a resignation and would ultimately need a replacement.
Okay, Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky making some power moves with regards to 84-year-old Senator Mitch McConnell, be he alive or be he dead, right? That's the question of the moment. And his absence from the floor of the Senate. He is not showing up to do his job to represent the people of Kentucky. You guys, I can't even say it with a straight face. He's not showing up to the floor of the Senate. He was never representing the people of Kentucky, but you know, whatever. Okay, so right, we've all been wanting this proof of life. There have been these photos and statements from his staff, but if Mitch McConnell can interface with his staff, why can't he have a meeting with the governor of Kentucky? It actually doesn't really matter that much. We know that Mitch is not able to do his job. He's not able to serve in his role as senator. And so there's been a lot of pressure from a lot of folks to say, hey, call for this special election that would allow Thomas Massie to run as an independent. And that's definitely one strategy. That's one avenue that's open. The governor of Kentucky could say, Mitch is not fit to serve. We need to have a special election. And initially I was like, okay, that's an option. I know a lot of Democrats have really rose-colored glasses when it comes to Thomas Massie. You should look at his voting record. Yep, he's stood on his principles, and he has not been willing to back down when it comes to the Epstein files and when it comes to funding Israel, right? There are ways in which I think he is a man of principle and he can't be bought. And it has cost him his seat in Congress. He's not a great dude. You guys, he said he would vote for the Save America Act. Like, he's not, let's not fool ourselves about what Thomas Massie is. And so, while I understand people were anxious to get Mitch booted out of his seat because he won his primary, right? There are other options besides just having Thomas Massie run. And the more I listened to Governor Beshear, who I actually think is pretty good, right? My relatives in Kentucky really like him. He's been able, as a Democrat, to get the support of Republican voters in Kentucky. He has a very high favorability rating. I think that he has a pretty significant political future. And I recognize that he has to play this very smart right now, not only because in many ways, right, the future of democracy, every move that everybody makes right now is really critical, but also these guys they're all thinking about their own political careers, right? There's nobody who is in a governor's seat or who is in the Senate or who is running for president that is not extremely ambitious and always strategizing about how to advance their career. Let's not be naive about that. Okay, so I'm always asking who benefits, right? Yeah, we know that these politicians are trying to benefit themselves. Maybe some of them are trying to save democracy, but they're definitely trying to benefit themselves in their careers. And so when it came to all of this pressure for Governor Beshear to call for a special election so that Thomas Massie could get this seat in the Senate potentially, who benefits from that? Who is best served by that move? Well, it's not so cut and dry, right? Because I'm not sure that it benefits Democrats, because Thomas Massie will work with them on a couple of issues, but the bulk of the time he's going to vote with all of the Republicans and with Donald Trump. It's really clear to me that Governor Beshear has also been looking at who benefits from these calls for a special election, right? And he's also been looking at who benefits from the fact that Mitch McConnell has not been showing up and participating in anything that's happening in the Senate, not in committee hearings, not any of that behind the scenes work, not any of that pressuring. Like, Mitch McConnell was a force in the Senate for decades, and he's just absent, right? He's not voting on any legislation.
You mentioned a lot of missed votes. I want to point out some other missed votes
that might not be a bad thing. He hasn't been there to vote on the SAVE Act, which would tear voting rights away. He hasn't been there to vote to support this war in Iran that this president started and shouldn't be continuing. He's not there to vote for a potential replacement of a Supreme Court justice, to continue a court that would tear down the Voting Rights Act. So listen, when you look at some of this, a vacancy, not having Mitch McConnell show up isn't necessarily a bad thing, because he certainly doesn't show up to help the American people.
Yeah, Governor Beshear knows what's up. He's a smart cookie. I think he struggled, right? Initially, I was frustrated that he wasn't getting on top of the messaging. He wasn't getting out there and seeming like a strong leader. And there was all of this uproar wanting him to do a special election because we weren't really hearing what his strategy is. And I think this is a way that Republicans tend to do really well and Democrats tend to struggle over and over and over again, is that Republicans are so good at tooting their own horn. They're so good at talking themselves up and seeming really strategic, even when they're not strategic. They're really good at being bold and brazen, and they have that kind of, right, like confidence of a mediocre white man, right? But Democrats often really struggle to have a good comms game, to communicate to their constituents what they are doing on our behalf, right? To communicate that they are strategic when they are strategic and savvy. They're not good about taking the work that they do and talking themselves up, bragging to their constituents so that we all understand that they have done something on our behalf and it's been a good thing. Initially, Governor Beshear looked really timid to me, and I think to a lot of other people, right? The optics were not that great. And in the last day or so, he's really gotten out there with the messaging. He's been really clear, like, hey guys, I know what's up. There is strategy to this, and let me help y'all understand what my thought process is and how I am taking action or inaction that benefits democracy and benefits the Democratic Party.
Rand Paul has dragged in an 85-year-old Anthony Fauci because he says he has to answer to the American people. But he won't ask an 84-year-old Mitch McConnell to do the same. Fauci is retired, and McConnell is a serving U.S. senator. All of these folks talked about Biden and how he was doing. Well, guess what? Biden was showing up. It is night and day from what they criticized to their refusal to ask for just a little bit of honesty and directness right now.
This feels like a personal vendetta.
Absolutely feels like a personal vendetta.
It was really good to see him be like, hey guys, if Mitch McConnell is in a rehab facility and he's still holding office, but he's not in the Senate, that is a hole in the voting bloc of Republicans. And they have such a slim majority. And Donald Trump has pissed off those couple of Republicans who he made them lose their primary, right? And it creates a significant weakness in the Senate to have Mitch McConnell still be holding that job, but to be absent from it. And then to see him leverage all of this around Anthony Fauci having to come and testify, and the fact that Republicans and Donald Trump are like they're acting so unbothered that Mitch is absent, even though I'm sure they're probably sweating it, right? Because they also know, hey, he's not here. He's not a body in a chair who's able to raise his feebly little hand and be like, I'm voting for whatever Donald Trump wants. Even though we know that Mitch hates Donald Trump's guts, right? We know that he hates Donald Trump. We know that he helped bring about all of this madness, even though he thinks and knows that Donald Trump should have been impeached and Donald Trump never should have been allowed to have a second term at all. Actually, we don't know what he knows now, because who knows if he's even conscious. We don't know anything. We just know that Republicans lied and said that Mitch called them on the phone and talked to them, and then they later had to be like, nah, that was a lie. That didn't happen. So what do you guys think? Because I think Andy Beshear is leveraging this in an effective way, and I think that his messaging around his action/inaction is much more effective over the last day or so. And I have more confidence in not just his leadership and his political savvy, but in his messaging, because messaging is where Democrats struggle. Messaging is where they need to learn how to get with the program, while also actual opposition against fascism. But we know that Governor Beshear is an effective leader. He does a good job of governing in Kentucky. Kentuckians really like him. And again, Democrat in a Republican state. He's managed to do good things, and he's managed to get the support of the people. So he knows what he's doing, right? He knows what he's doing. And I don't know. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the ways that his communication around this issue has really stepped up. And I'd love to know what you think. What do you think about the fact that people toss his name around as a 2028 presidential candidate? I know I don't like to talk too much about the 2028 race because we got to get through the midterms, and we got to stop Donald Trump from derailing the midterms through whatever desperate means he's going to try and do that. But I do think it will be interesting to see who kind of filters through over the next coming months in the run up to the midterms, and then I think very swiftly thereafter, who's going to kind of rise to what kind of cream is going to rise to the top when it comes to Democrats wanting to run for office in 2028. Okay, and with that, I'm going to go get my hair cut. I'll be back this afternoon. I have a lot more to talk about. It's good to be home. Had a really good trip, but it's really good to be home. I don't miss all the noise in the United States. It's so loud. As you can hear the air guard practicing, and there have been trains and highway noise and what have you. But okay, thank you for watching. I'll be back with shorter hair. Don't forget to click like and subscribe in the meantime, and take care.